Okay, so I'm taking it that the hand up means that you're ready to speak. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Life Pillars?
Fine, thank you. This is Ruth. I'm reading as Life Pillars.
Okay.
My question was, or rather, I was expecting maybe we could hear from a man who has had an experience being an abuser, because I think some of these things don't sink in until you hear from the mouth, you know, of a perpetrator.
Yes.
I think my expectation was, I don't know why, that there would be someone, you know, maybe sharing the experience. But even so, even for the women, if anyone would be willing to share, because I think their dynamics we may not grasp. We have the paper information, but there are real life dynamics we may not grasp because we have diverse cultural backgrounds, as well as different views of life. So maybe a request, if there's anybody like that who's willing to share, or if you have, as the host, have interviewed someone like that, really what were their actual words, because those ones then give you insight into so many things.
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you for the forum. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for participating. Yes, that is a wonderful idea. I think the reason you got that idea is because of the title of it was Perspective of a Male Batterer. Yeah, that might just be my English that I could not find a better way to say we're looking at the male batterer. But really, why don't we take this opportunity now to just invite any gentleman who feels, just knowing that this is a safe space, share what you can share with us as a community here about being a batterer, the mindset behind being a batterer. Please, you're welcome. Anybody who can give us some insights? It might not be you yourself who was the batterer, but maybe having been around other batterers, you have an idea what they say. Maybe just share that with us.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
So my name is Daniel.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay, now, some few months ago, I witnessed a couple who had frequent fights in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the most challenging part is that the children were siding with the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes.
And you see the mother was like, if I can call the breadwinner.
I see.
She was working in a good company, but the husband was doing the hustling kind of jobs. So she could slap the husband in front of the kids, and the kids will cheer her up. And it reached the point where the man almost destroyed the whole family because he said the house was on fire when everyone was asleep. Mm-hmm. But the neighbors came in and they were able to rescue the family, but there are serious burns. So some of these domestic violence we're seeing mm-hmm. are also coming from the woman side to the man. And some of these men cannot speak up. They are silently undergoing these painful times in their houses. And it's too abusive, and the children are seeing this, and we are bringing a very bad generation. Trust me, you're bringing a very bad generation. So this is another challenge which I feel it needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you so much, Danny. I think you bring up a very good point, because it looks like when the dynamics in the family shift and change,
yeah,
can make somebody feel like, now I'm being disrespected in my home.
Yeah.
So that is something that we need to discuss and brainstorm. How can we address these issues? We need to also address the female batterers. Hopefully that will also be one of the tools to reduce it. Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate that. That's a good insight. Anybody else? Any other gentleman?
Hello.
Hello.
Are you?
Hi.
Yes, my name is Ruth.
Hello, Ruth. Welcome.
Ruth. Yes. I wanted to say from this approach that mostly the batterers don't just wake up and batter.
Yes.
There is a history to it.
Yes.
Most of the time somebody says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to do this. It's good to take that seriously and help the person to be able to address the issue before it becomes a crisis. So really what I'm saying is that please list the numbers and variables and be able to deduce and say, this is getting serious. Otherwise, as the previous person has said, really, battering is both sides. From GVRC, we have seen men who have battered women, and we have seen women who have battered men. It's a two-way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. So women batterers, men batterers, they both need to be addressed in equal measure because domestic violence in itself is not acceptable. Before I take on the next audio, I want to read out some of the verbiage that I came across as rationale for batterers. For someone who enjoys the power and control, there was the comment, the beatings, the verbal abuse, and the intimidation were all out of control. I had the buttons and I could make her do whatever I wanted. I was trying to intimidate her. I wanted to control her for the simple reason that I knew I could do it. It made me feel powerful. For somebody who is expressing some kind of insecurity, it was for some abusers, violence is a tool to keep their intimate partner from leaving and keeping them from being unfaithful. There's one comment here, problem-solving skills. Teddy, who was 21, asked for examples of ways that he could respond that were healthy instead of hitting his girlfriend, saying it was the only way he knew. And then someone else here commented, I did not know it was abuse. I thought it was a way of making someone understand my statements. Those are just some of the comments that batterers who are in treatment have made. All right, I would like to hear from more men. If there's any other gentleman who would like to speak, please go ahead. Okay, now I'm going to open it up to anyone else who would like to say anything. And thank you.
If I may jump in.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Male perspective, I think, is so critical because I think the prism from which we look at these things from is cultural, is moral, is due to socialization, but all those things have been able to offer us reasons or explanations as to why. But I think when we look at it from what the psychology of it is, then even the issue of gender melts in the background because you realize that it doesn't matter whether it's a man and a woman. Any person who has issues of self-esteem, does not have emotional regulation, is not a good communicator, has difficulty with impulse control, you'll always find that person is toxic when in the company of other people. And I think just being able to approach this issue of, this issue that has brought so much shame and humiliation on both the perpetrator and the person who is receiving them, to just look at it from a human point of view, I think will be very helpful and make people a lot less defenseless. So that when you say, can a man who has been a victim of this, or can a man who has been the perpetrator come up and say that, they won't feel it's like, oh, you did this because you're a man. I would like for us to have this conversation to a point where somebody will understand, oh, I did this because I actually had something that was deeply internal in me that was not compatible with how I'm supposed to conduct myself. I hope we shall come to that.
Yes.
But I think the way is to continue to carry this conversation as you have. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for that, Lucy. Yes, I think it's becoming clear that the point is, let's make the domestic violence the enemy, not the man, not the woman. And then we tackle it in that way. And then we find the right way to approach these parties as we try and strive towards that. Thank you so much, Lucy, for your comments. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Wajiro.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, go ahead.
Now I'd like to know how you deal with this when the couple, both of them, are fighting each other.
Okay, thank you for that question. I think that sometimes what can look like a fight between a man and a woman, it may just be a fight, but it's a very unfair physical fight, isn't it? Because the man is stronger than the woman. That's one thing. It's not an appropriate way to deal with the problem. Granted, that is correct. However, sometimes a DV, a battery situation, can look like a fight when it's really a battery situation. If he's doing most of the kicking, the punching, and the pushing, and she's there defending herself and fighting and powering back, it's no longer a fight, it is battery. It's only a fight if there's an equal match. That is my perception on fights. I don't think fights are healthy in any relationship, but it stops being a fight when one person has more physical strength over the other. Or like we have said now, when we're talking about women who are batterers, when the woman has got more words coming out of her mouth than the man can even get out, then now it becomes battery. It's no longer a fight. So just wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in on that. Anyone else have any comments on that?
And let's check the chat box.
Okay, I'll check the chat box. And someone else spoke up?
Yeah, it was still me.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm currently dealing with a case. And it gets to a point, because it's now family.
Yes.
You get tired, because every time you're trying to help the female, she keeps going back, and it gets to a point where you just want her to figure it out on her own, what exactly she wants, because you've tried to help her, talk to her, help her see the danger. I still do not understand at what phase she is at still at the moment, but I feel like I have come to a point where I have not given back, but I have stepped aside.
Yes.
To let her decide what she wants.
Yes.
But still I'm concerned, because anything could happen to her. How do you empower the caregivers or the people involved, the people who can give help, to keep doing that without feeling tired or overwhelmed?
Thank you so much for that, Wajiro.
JW,
before
you answer.
Yes, go ahead.
Before you answer the Ritu's question,
yes,
just something related to the same.
Yes.
You know, occasionally, sometimes you find some families, especially the female,
yes,
or the lady, she's so stuck into this home
yes,
in a way that she thinks that now, where will I go?
Yes.
When I leave this home, where will I go?
Yes.
So now that's where now other structural issues now come in.
Yes.
Then how well do we support
Yes.
even the survivors in these situations? Because at some time you may even need even a safe home or even a rescue center to take them, so that you can be able to take them through all this. Because by the end of the day, they'll tell you, you want me to have this issue taken up, but now where will I live? How will I survive with my children?
Yes.
Some of them don't even have parents. Where will I go? Whose home will I get into? So these are technical issues that sometimes you even get stuck even how to handle them. But I think it's so holistic. It needs a lot of support from each and every one of us.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and then you can also go through my text in the chat box.
Thank you. And just to let you know that the chats are quite a bit. I'm almost sure I have gone over my time, but if you're welcome to stay on as we go through them. I hope I'll be able to get through all the chats. If not, we can also engage offline. But to answer Wajiro and Austin's comments, this is a discussion for all of us what to do. They say that a domestic violence victim leaves an average of 7 times before they finally leave. Now that I'm sure even is maybe a very conservative number. It's very frustrating for the people who are watching, because just when you think she's now ready to leave, 2 days later, she's gone back. The only thing that we can do is understand that that is part of the dynamic of domestic violence. It is the manipulation and the control whereby one day he's sweet, one day he's not. And it keeps drawing her back in, but there's more to that. It is part of the dynamic of the domestic violence that we can maybe discuss further. I know there's so much out there. I know there's a TED talk on why did I stay? And a lady talks about that. But also, there are many who stay because they don't know where to go, like Austin said. We need more community resources. I think we have to widen our net in the community and say, we're not only looking to have safe houses by certain NGOs, we as a community can say, I will always have a safe bed for a domestic violence victim in one form or another, whether it's the community that comes together and finances a place, or you have a spare room. What I'm trying to say is that we need to come up with ideas that we as community, individual community members, can add to the pot, so that when the domestic violence victim is saying she's ready to go, at least she should have a place to sleep. At least the children should have some food to eat. At least there should be someone to help her move her things. At least there should be someone who can address the batterer and keep him at bay. Whether it's the elders, the chief, the religious leaders, a trusted uncle, let's pull these resources together. Yes, we are on the beginning stages of that kind of discussion, but we are not starting off from fresh, because there are many communities around the world who are asking the same thing. How do we help? So let's brainstorm. Let's brainstorm what we can do. Anyone else would like to go?
Hello.
Hello, Maureen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Please.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was very insightful. So just to add on what I think Nderitu has said,
yes,
you find that there are those victims who their main issue is not financial. You know, most of the time we look at the financial, the economic bit of it, but you also find the victims who are maybe economically well off, they can take care of their needs, but they still stay in those abusive relationships. One of the things we should look at is maybe the basis of the relationship.
yes.
Maybe the reason why these people, they got into the marriage, or maybe, for example, you find that there are kids in this marriage who are adults. You can't just explain to them why one person, maybe the mother, has to walk away. Some of these people have invested in these marriages. There's a business we started like 10 years ago. I've invested my money, I've invested my time. So if I leave today, where am I going to start? You see? So maybe when addressing the battering issues, we should also look at the basis of the relationship. Like, why are these two people together? So that when we want to address, for example, now, you see, there's someone getting tired, because much as you are trying to get this person, it is dangerous for you, yes, but they're not leaving. And then another issue is also that we might want to address is the stigma. You see, we still live in a society where you just don't walk out of a marriage and then people feel like you did the right thing. Yes. Let's say from the cultural bit of it, your parents, the members of the society may not agree with you. So you find sometimes it's not just about the economic issues.
You're right. Thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah, it sounds like it's very complex. The reasons why people stay and why they continue in a battering relationship. It is a relationship. A batterer cannot batter by himself. He needs someone to engage in the battery. And so the victim is caught up in this, yes, but not completely helpless. The victim also needs tools to be able to process their situation and just break it down, just like you have said. You break it down and say the pros and the cons. There's only one issue though with staying. The statistics have been horrible in that domestic violence progressively gets worse to the point of homicides and suicides. So as much as sometimes we feel like we are balancing it, we need to be careful to address the fact that it is actually a safety issue to continue in a relationship that has domestic violence. But that is where our mental health professionals can come in and help someone work through all the dynamics and all the issues that come along with being in a domestic violence relationship. Anybody else like to make a comment before I wind out?
PW?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, just something. One more thing.
Yes.
Talking about the batterers, and we said we need to give them support.
Yes.
And I'm putting this in quotes, the reformed batterers. And I'm also thinking that once there's some sort of violence, there's a chance that one could again reoccur. And I'm thinking about reuniting the reformed batterers back to the society and even the family. Then thinking about what kind of support do we need to offer them so that, because the issue of mistrust and isolation and things like that can lead to even other mental issues that can come up.
Yes.
Then what are the strategies that we need to put in place to be able to do a proper follow-up, even to these families that we've taken through the issues of violence and now living peacefully, because there's a chance that something else could happen. So now the issue is now the follow-up strategies and how well we need to really incorporate back the people into society and even back to their families to live peacefully. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Anyone can jump in with an answer to that? I would like to attempt that, just to throw in some comments to that, Austin. I'm thinking reformed battery, I'm assuming you mean that a batterer who has chosen a non-violent way of proceeding henceforth, right? So
yes.
they have now discovered that they feel that they do not want to participate in violence. That needs to be encouraged, that needs to be supported, that needs to be commended. But you're right, now someone has chosen a new way of thinking. Just like an alcoholic, they will need ongoing support. They do not need stigma, they do not need to be condemned, they do not need to be outcasted. They need support to continuously challenge their rationale to keep them on the right track. And then what can we do with that? I know there are groups that people have formed of reformed batterers that might be helpful. What I think sometimes there's a question of, especially when it's done without a mental health professional in the group, is grouping batterers together. Because if the batterer is not solid in his position, that he's no longer going to batter, but he now comes across other men who continuously batter or applaud battering, there's a very high likelihood that he can withdraw back into his old habits. So good role models, maybe people who have never battered or have no interest in battering, would be the kind of group that this batterer might need to affiliate himself with, so that he can learn continuously a new way of operating in a relationship. So that is just one thought. I think such groups would be very, very helpful. If we could have many, many groups like that, where role modeling is being done with a mental health professional, I think that would be very, very helpful. And even if a mental health professional is not available, coming up with a curriculum, maybe that can be something that we can research, a curriculum for those rehabilitated batterers to help them on their way, walking away from domestic violence. But thank you so much for those comments. Anybody else before I wind this down? I know we'll never have enough time to talk about domestic violence, and I'm also being respectful of your time. I am taking note of all the comments that have been put in the chat box. I'm going to put them in a document and respond to those who have requested a copy of the presentation. Any last words? I can take up to 3 last words before I log off and release you.
Hi. Hi.
Hello, how are you? Go ahead. So I have Joyce.
Hello. Hi, my name is Joyce.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the good presentation.
Thank you so much.
What I want to comment is about domestic violence for men. I know many men are having challenges of domestic violence, but they are not what is there is that they are not reporting their what's happening to them. I think because of the stigma, many men are really suffering because they don't report their cases. And then another thing is also that we don't have safe houses for this for men, but I know we have some few safe houses for women, but we don't have for men. So another thing is also as we are going through the presentation and the comments, we are using the word victim and batterers. Maybe we can use perpetrators and survivors. I don't know. Maybe you can advise me. Thanks.
So much for that, Joyce. Yes, we do need to be sensitive to our wording so that our wording does not become a barrier. Yes, we don't want to now become part of the problem. So yes, thank you for that. That is something to consider. Maybe someone can, maybe you can put some suggestions like you've done in the chat box on other ways that we can address the person who perpetrates violence. Perpetrator is good, it's descriptive. Maybe we can add if anyone has any additional ideas. Thank you so much for that. We need safe houses for our male victims. Maybe we can brainstorm on how we can go about securing that. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Macrine.
Hi, Macrine, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I think it's important for us to also acknowledge the need for the caregivers to seek appropriate supervision, because the failure to do so puts the caregiver at risk of experiencing frustrations on account of what they're dealing with their clients. So just to remind us that we really need to embrace supervision, because again, dealing with issues of domestic violence, just as other issues of that are covered within the psychological therapy space, is quite emotionally burdensome. So we really need to get that, in place.
Thank you so much for that reminder, Macrine. Yes, as mental health professionals, when we're dealing with domestic violence, we're hearing the worst of the worst. If we're doing a good job, our client is burdening on the domestic violence issues onto you so that it can be discussed. It can be a trigger, it can be traumatic, it can be very heavy over a long period of time. So yes, I want to echo that. We need supervision, and we also need peer supports to de-stress after these sessions so that we do not engage ourselves overly inside the sessions. Thank you so much for that, Macrine. Maybe if there's anyone available to give supervision, available who's qualified to do that, go ahead and put your name and contact out for everyone to be able to receive, and then they can contact you directly. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
It's me again.
Okay.
Now, I think we should extend the services also to the police.
Yes.
Because most of these people report these cases to the police.
Yes.
And the kind of words that they get sometimes might actually even encourage them to stay or feel like they are to blame for being in such situations. So if we could take this training further to the police to help them deal with those people who come to report violence,
Yes.
we will go a long way in solving a lot of problems and avoiding many very bad side effects in future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. When a victim is running out for help, one of the first people she goes to is the police. And our police are not necessarily adequately trained in how to deal with domestic violence situations. Yes, I agree. We need to come up with a curriculum that can be added to their capacity building, their training, not only for the police, but also for the judges, for the community leaders, the chiefs, all the religious leaders, all the people that a victim would run to, whether male or female, so that they are equipped. Oftentimes people react in a way because they don't know what to do with the information. Ah, mama rudi utajua. Nenda umuongeleshe vizuri. Okay, that's not really going to help when you have been battered. So yeah, it's because there's no alternatives that have been offered to them. So I thank you so much, Wajira. I agree. And I'm encouraging us to please think about how we can come up with different curriculums within our communities to discuss. Feel free to share this presentation with whoever you think it would be helpful to. Go through the material and see how you can contribute to this effort. And I'll take one more. Anybody else ready to come in?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
It's Joyce, eh?
Hi, Joyce.
Yes, fine. It's me again. Now, I wanted to ask on how we are going to help on the current scenario.
Yes.
Because so many cases are happening at the moment. What are we going to do about it now that we have discussed a very good topic?
Yes, thank you so much for that. Now, the way forward. Again, you can share this presentation with whoever you think. I would encourage you to go through a mental health professional because there's a lot of mental health discussions and nuances. I wouldn't want it to be misinterpreted. So it needs to be shared by someone who, and of course we're free to discuss offline, to just go over the presentation and talk about how can we share this. We have the opportunity now with people at home to share through social media, through YouTube, to call people on the phone. No, you can't really say that much, but through these online platforms, maybe we can reach more people than we ordinarily would have.
Yes.
We can also maybe talk about scheduling sessions with corporations and with the police and the hospitals, and we can brainstorm how we can get the word out about domestic violence. Yeah, let's just do what we can while we're being safe with the social distancing. Let's brainstorm what So I think what we can do, maybe Joyce, is I'll put out a call for a task.
This one is from South Africa.
Yeah, I'll put out a call for a task on WhatsApp. If anybody wants to participate in that task force, we kind of sit down and brainstorm together and come up with a plan.
Oh,
that would be so great.
Okay,
so I'm a member of the Kenya Psychological Association.
So
if you have a group, please go ahead and...
2 weeks ago, something is coming. Something is coming.
There's somebody who's there.
Carrefour.
Danny, you need to mute your mic. Danny,
yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, the ways to communicate with me,
yes,
let me know of your interest is on this chat. Just put your email address and put your address and say task force.
Yes.
Another way is on my email, which is WATHONI, that's Wadhoni, 2000 at yahoo.com.
Yes.
You can just put there in the subject matter, DV task force, so I can pull them. And let's see here. And you can also send me a text via WhatsApp.
Yes.
My WhatsApp number is +1 808 561 2645.
4, 5.
Yes. So anyone who will be communicating with me, please make sure to put the subject domestic violence so I can pull them out all together. And we can work on a task force. We can arrange a time to get together and discuss further. And I please encourage the men also to participate so that we can get a man's perspective as a victim and also as a possible batterer, former batterer. Okay. Otherwise, with that, thank you so very much. Thank you so much for giving me your time. You have been so generous with your participation. I know this has gone way over, but I think that we have discussed quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to discussing further with you. And so thank you so much for attending.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Asante sana.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Asante.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you so much. Be safe. Socially distance properly.
Yes, true.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.